making the time to be with us today for the Small Scale Farmers Colloquium. Actually, we have about 62 people that have registered, so we'll get started right here. Hopefully the others join us soon. And then we'll also be recording it. Those who will not be able to join us, they'll be able to listen to it. Today, we are very fortunate to have some of our local farmers. Whipstone Farm is here, Shaffer Organics is here, and then Blooming Reed Farms. So you can see them right there. Whipstone, Shanti, you can raise your hand for us to see you. All right, and then Shaffer, Joseph is here also. Yep, and then we have Juan Agua, Blooming Reed, yeah. All right, thank you very much. So in today's meeting, we are going to let Joseph start. This is part of the Commercial Horticulture and Small Acreage Program that is in Yabapa and Coconino County, but we are always open to other people from other counties to join us in our meetings and programs. So wherever you are joining us from, we are thankful that you are here. And then we'll get started now, asking Joseph to tell us about his operation and what he's been doing, where he's going, and then also just some challenges and some successes that they've had. So that follow that order. Then after that, we'll have some discussions with them, asking them just how they're able to go through it. We all know how difficult it is here. Whichever question that you want to put to them, they'll be able to respond to us. So thank you very much for being with us. Joseph, I give the baton to you to start.
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, I did not get any sort of, what do you call that? I didn't get a presentation or PowerPoint put together. So I'm going to go ahead and wing it with y'all. I just wanted to be here to be here with y'all. So I do have a couple things I wanted to mention, and that is I just started farming. I noticed a lot of people do jump into farming and generally fail pretty quickly. I didn't want to be one of those statistics because I love farming, and I wanted to be able to do it with both my own personal passion and make a living. So if you can't do it and put a little money aside, it's probably going to fail. So that's where I did want to show some few Excel sheets for some people. That's just their jive. So hope you enjoy. And Isaac did mention a couple challenges and successes, stuff like that. So I suppose I can conjure up some memories there. So to make this quick, I'm going to see if I can share my screen with kind of where I started with the whole farm. And go over here. And that's a really big version of it. So I'm assuming everybody can see the Excel spreadsheet in the back with all the green stripes.
Yes, we see it.
All right, so before I started the farm, I kind of decided what was going to be farm. And that was done by a little something that I caught on with the USDA training, that it was this little page over here where they suggested that everything be in areas. So I started up here with my home, little blue area, and I just sort of worked out and created what became the areas of my farm. Now, most successful part of my farm is going to be area 14, that center of the screen, orange greenhouse, cold frame actually. Area 13 is the big green square. That's where all my summer crop stuff goes in, primarily low yield, low linear foot yield. And I'll explain that in just a little bit. But that green area is going to be a whole lot of things like wheats, oats, garlic. Summertime, I might throw in some squash and stuff in there. But that area 14 is going to be the primary, and that's where I can actually plan out my crops and everything. It's just basically where I can zoom in, calculate what valves, if you see these big numbers 4, 5 on the blue lines, those are my valves that drop into each row. Each row has a pre-planned plant to go in there, and if it's not already pre-planned or existing, I'm leaving it up to demand at that point. And I'm showing you a graph that hasn't been filled in here intentionally because I didn't want to have too much clutter, but this is basically where I kind of wanted to start, and this is where I did start, and just getting everything planned out. And I just figured I didn't want to become a farmer without a plan. And so these big dark blue chunks are manifolds. Got one coming up in the greenhouse there, one coming up in the main area. And that allows me to determine how much water, because I already have a meter on each valve section, I can determine how much water each crop is using. And that also gives me the benefit of knowing my water crop usage per product. And that's going to fall more into, let me head over here to $1. That's going to fall more into here, which sets me up into, if I know what my water crop usage is, and I come over here to lettuce, and I can see that since February, I've brought in 484 pounds of lettuce out of the greenhouse. I can tell how many pounds of lettuce I'm getting per gallon of water. And that was important to me just because I wanted to build a potentially, if I land on something that works, if I threw these algorithms and such, and I land on something that is exportable, I want to be able to tell people that they can do this on such and such volume of water, receiving X, Y, Z for yields. And that's where lots and lots of data tracking come in on quite a few of the other tabs I have below here. And that just kind of gives me an idea of where my yields are and what's worth growing. So in this really colorful column over to the far left, that thing changes throughout the season. It's quite flexible. I might have something that customer asked for, so it ends up on there, and I only grow 3 or 4 pounds of it because a vendor wants, I don't know, 3 pounds of oats or 10 pounds of black beans. So they do end up on the column. Doesn't mean that I'm going to compare them against the rest of the production. But for the most part, it ends up over there. And I'm going to zoom in on something that's important to me. And that was, I had decided that in order for me to pay the bills, I needed to make a minimum of $2 per linear foot on the worked rows. And I don't do worked acres. I'm not big like the other farmers. I literally go per linear foot over here on my little micro farm. And so I need to know what we were looking at per linear foot. So say this parsley, if I couldn't make $2 a linear foot, I didn't grow parsley. That went into what I call the volunteers section. And that is, I volunteer certain plants. I'll put in certain plants purely that exist for a customer, regardless of whether I make money. So that's my little, what would you call it? It's a charity. So charity things don't have to fall into the $2 a linear foot, but as you can see, the parsley is $13.30 a linear foot. That's good, but that is purely because I have 10 foot of parsley and it is all selling. if I would throw in 100 foot of parsley with my little micro farm, I might receive something clearly less than my minimum of $2 a linear foot, and therefore it wouldn't get planted. So everything on here, I mean, my yields, I can compare them year to year, which I do in the last 3 years to this year. So the reason this is important to me is because I'm able to also tell where certain plants are lacking, and then I can look at my differentials to tell why they're lacking, such as, well, lettuce, for instance, 270 linear foot. The first year it came in at just over 100 pounds harvested from that 270 linear foot. I thought, okay, that's decent, never grown lettuce before. Last year it came in almost 280, and then this year we're barely into the season, I'm already at 484. And so there's clearly an increase in yields, but I've also learned just how many lumens my lettuce likes, and so I'm able to shade cloth it at the right times and so on, and get the right humidities in there. And so this allows me to track that and see if I'm on the right trajectory. There's other ones that I haven't been so successful. My Armenian cucumbers, which I'm very fond of, not so much. So I do interplant everything. So the same time I put in my lettuce, I also put in peas between the lettuce. That way the peas will start producing just as the lettuce wants to start to bolt. And if, I don't know if Isaac's on here still, I did give him a picture that he might be able to bring on. It shows my greenhouse current as of today. And if you could see it, the peas are towering above it, all in full bloom, ready to start harvest this week. And my lettuce is not bolting like I had expected. So it's in full production along with peas starting to harvest. So I'm going to have to adjust my planting ratio there. But the same row is going to take on tomatoes in about 2 weeks. And so that requires some lettuce thinning there. And I can track all that again over here on the farming thing, where my greenhouse area 14, which is, this is a terrible example of it. This is the area 14. I'm going to continue rotating these crops on top of each other. And the reason I'm rotating them on top of each other is because I don't want the UV on the soil. And a lot of the newer farmers, well, actually, I think everybody understands that now, that we don't want to have that ultraviolet hitting the soil and killing out our microbiome. And so I just really keep things thick, very, every planting is on top of the other. Like I said, I was going to talk about a time it didn't work for me, and that was those Armenian cucumbers. Turns out that they can't stand your lumens. When they fall below about 50,000 lumens, production drops off significantly. So last year, where I had dropped shade cloth over my cucumbers, hoping to get a little more out of my lettuce, I knocked my cucumbers back by, it was 65% production compared to year before. And so this is definitely a work in progress. Yeah. So it's not going to be always just got the numbers, got the data, you're going to run forward with it. Sometimes it kicks me in the arse, and I got to step back and see what I changed and adjust my plans to care for that change. Between each greenhouse is a planting area, the area 15, area 17, 19, 21. Those are open crop areas, strawberries, asparagus, stuff like that are planned in the future ones. We got strawberries in 15 right now.
Okay, you want me to share the picture you sent me?
I'm sorry, Isaac, I didn't hear that.
You want me to share the picture you sent me?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Okay. Yeah, so when you're done sharing your screen, let me know so I can share it. Yeah. Maybe when we're in the question time, I can
There you
share
go.
it.
Go ahead, go right ahead, and I will pop back over there if I need to, just to explain anything farther.
Okay.
So the picture he's going to pull up, if it works, is simply kind of an example of how I plant on top of each other. Like I said, it's working pretty good. Not all crops are conducive to the planting over each other. Tomatoes absolutely hate being planted near beets for some reason. I haven't had any success with tomatoes and beets unless I'm just not timing it right. Has anybody else had success, like Shanti or Juan? Have you guys had success with beets and tomatoes together?
We don't interplant that much in general, but it's just challenging, I think, logistically for timing and harvest, and one crop not overtaking another. Like I think tomatoes would probably totally overtake the beets, but
Yeah, I found the beets overtook my tomatoes every time. I couldn't figure it out. Still working on it though. I've got a couple other companion cropping with tomatoes that work pretty well. And like I said, I do this because I'm trying to find out a micro farm system that can work downtowns, not have to be out so far from the core of the town, the city. It's just I guess a pet of mine to find good solid micro farming option. But you, Juan, have you tried into that companion planting with any success yet?
I haven't tried beets and tomatoes, but I've done a couple of things of interplanting. Mostly I've tried a few alliums and with brassicas, so doing like small green onion clusters in between broccoli plants, and that usually works. One time I didn't time it correctly, and the broccoli over like just got way bigger than the onions did, and so the onions were non-existent. But yeah, we've played around with a little bit of intercropping, but not anything that we've found is one that we're like permanently attached to.
Okay. Yeah, I've got a whole handful of companion planting that works. And I don't like that term because it's one of those old 1990 catchy terms that kind of tried to make every farmer sound like he was going to just nail it and get rich. But it's and there's a lot of White's tails in there, but I have found a couple successes. Yeah, I found and peas and lettuce seem to just nail it. So, but we are coming into a season where we're starting to hit the warmer days, and so it's time to start talking about a lot warmer things. Squashes, tomatoes, beans, another one, green beans. They like that full light, as many lumens as possible, it seems. Yeah, Isaac, you have any success with that picture there?
Okay, sorry, I lost you guys again. Yeah, I, I guess you're done with your presentation now. I don't know. You done now?
Yeah, I'm pretty wrapped up here, so I'm good to roll it over to whoever wants to take it next.
Shanti, you can take over now. So after you're all done, so we'll take the questions from there. Please don't forget to tell the location of your farm. Joseph, you have to talk about that later.
All right. Would you like me to discuss that now?
When we're all done during the question time, you can talk more about that. Yeah.
Sounds good.
I'm trying to share my screen, so I just want to make sure I can see it. Where's my, hold on a second. Give me a minute here.
Mhm.
I think my file. All right. Okay. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, you're good. We can see that.
Okay. So my name's Shanti from Whipstone Farm. We're in Paulden. All three of us presenting today are in Paulden, the great metropolis. But we have pretty good soil out here and cheaper land. So I think that's why the farms are kind of like sprouting up in this area. I'll apologize in advance. I didn't have time to put together like a new presentation. So I tried to find an old presentation that was kind of the most relevant, but all the photos are like my kids when they're way younger. So interestingly enough, I don't recognize a lot of the names on the screen of who's here for this presentation. So I'm curious who you all are, but I guess I'll just have to stay curious. Maybe when you ask questions, we'll figure out who you are. Me and my husband, Corey, run Whipstone Farm. Corey started about 20 years ago. He used to be a chimney sweep. And so farming was kind of a good side business. Like he did, you know, wood stove cleaning and chimney cleaning in the winter. And then in the summer, he had a really small farm. We started out with like 1/4 of an acre. And then I've been there for about 15, 17 years. I don't know, I feel like it just started, but somehow it's a whole bunch of years already. And so we've just grown a little bit, we just grew, like kind of doubled our space every year. And now we're at about 15 acres. We have like 2 different farm locations. So we have our house, and we have about 6 acres around our house. And then we have another field about 5 miles down the road that we kind of grew into eventually. Let me just go forward in my slides here. Okay. Hopefully my slides will be somewhat relevant to what I want to talk about. Cooper, sorry, my kids are in the background. So we, oh my gosh. We grow vegetables, we grow flowers. We started out selling at farmers markets like over 20 years ago when the very first Prescott Farmers Market began. And then we also sell or have sold at the Flagstaff Market. Kind of over the years, then we added a CSA program. I will assume you all know what that is, but it's kind of like a co-op where people prepay at the beginning of the season, get a share of the harvest every week that you want to offer it. And now we've kind of ventured into selling more wholesale as well. So we sell to some restaurants, some florists, some natural food stores. There's some vegetable pictures. So we also sell flowers. I can't remember if I already said that. That kind of came later in the game of, we just started out like planting a few sunflowers. My husband was really skeptical that anybody would buy them because he was like, sunflowers grow on the side of the road. But they did. And then we just started adding more and more flowers. So that's become probably like 1/3 of what we sell at this point. And then we ventured more into like value added things, even with the flowers. So this year we sold, or the last few years, we sold dried flowers and wreaths. We've got like a few other ventures. So like eggs, we have animals on the farm. We don't really, it's not really a marketable product so much, but like it's meat for ourselves and kind of just helps with the farm ambiance. It does take time to figure out, like, it's fun to try a lot of different things, but figuring out what is actually a profitable venture. Sometimes you gotta like test the waters, and then hopefully you're like Joseph and you have spreadsheets and you keep track of it all, or you're like us and you just like wing it all the time and you wanna eventually figure out if you're like making money on what you're doing. So we've like tried some value-added products. Right now we're currently in some regulatory hurdles. So hopefully down the road, we'll have more like hot sauce and other value-added products where we can take what we can't sell and make it into something that has a longer shelf life. So sorry, I guess I'm just going to go off these old slides, which may or may not be what you guys are interested in talking about, but we are not certified organic. We pretty much grow using organic methods. In a former life, I was an organic inspector, and so I know a lot about the regulations, but we've just never really been, I guess there's not a lot of certified organic growers in our area, so we haven't really had the pressure that we felt we needed to be certified. It's a lot of paperwork and it's pretty expensive. And so I think what we have to offer is that we've been around for a long time and we have a lot of customers that kind of trust what we have to say. And I try to be really transparent in that, like I write a newsletter every week and I show a lot of pictures of what we do, talk about issues that we're having with pests or, I don't know, the ups and downs of farming. And so I think that, we're giving people not just like, here's a stamp of approval from a certification agency, but like really like a much fuller picture of what we're doing. So there's a lot of trust. I guess that might not work in every marketing situation. No idea why this picture's here, but like there's spreading some manure. We do use a lot of equipment. So I mean, there's a lot of, I'd say, excitement and push towards no-till these days. And I'm very much, I think we're very curious about using more no-till methods, but on our scale, it seems a little hard to venture into that, but we are contemplating how we can do that more and more, but currently we do use a lot of equipment. So pretty much all our preparations with tractor, you saw the like compost spreader. This is the one on the left is like we're seeding, direct seeding a crop with a seeder that goes on the back of the tractor. We do some cultivation, mechanical cultivation, transplanters. That actually, that's the one on the top right is like it's just my kid sitting on there, but you could imagine plants sitting on those trays and that rides along the bed and you can transplant without having to bend over. Drip irrigation. We use a lot of row cover. That's on the bottom right. That's for like crop protection. So it could be in the spring to protect from frost, or it can keep pests off depending on when you put it down and what pests you're trying to deter. Also in our climate, I found, and maybe this is a little bit what Joseph was talking about, is it almost like our climate is such an intense, sunny, like high light environment that light can often, I don't know, it kind of fries the plants sometimes. So like leafy greens tend to get like, dry, crispy edges. For us, flowers tend to grow kind of short because there's such an intensity of light. And so sometimes we use row cover as like a way to deflect some of the intensity of the sunlight and or to keep humidity around the plants. I don't know, here's some transplants. We grow like 95% of our like transplants we grow ourselves. So this time of year, we spend a lot of time in the propagation house, getting plants ready for the field. I already mentioned we sell at farmers markets. We sell through a CSA program. Sorry, I'm just gonna go kind of quickly through the slides because I want to make sure everyone has time to talk and there's time for questions. So I don't mean to be like rushing through, but I'm a fast talker. I think this was on here just to reflect on what a CSA means. It's kind of like the members are taking on the risks and rewards with the farmers. So here's a lovely picture of like losing the roof of our greenhouse, which I know has happened to other farmers in this area. We have really high winds. Anymore, I feel like like for our CSA, because our farm is not 100% a CSA farm, our members aren't really taking on a huge risk because they've prepaid. And so if all we had was enough for them, it would go to them first. It could be that there's certain crops they don't get in a single year because like there's a total crop failure of tomatoes or beets or whatever the case may be, but they're gonna get something. So I'll get back to that a little bit. I'll talk about financial stuff. We do grow year round. And so luckily we have a farmer's market that runs 12 months out of the year. I don't know, maybe like the first 10 years of farming, we didn't grow in the winter. Like we didn't really know that you could. We didn't have big greenhouses. So our marketing season was maybe like April through October. And then we just slowly started trying to increase what we could grow in the winter. So we do have a bunch of high tunnels we grow in. And then we grow a lot of crops in the field actually through the winter, like root crops. If they're planted at the right time, they can stay in the ground all winter and just we harvest them as needed. And a lot of the greens, like cold hardy greens like spinach and kale, we can grow through a lot of the winter, but it's like very important to time your plantings right. You need to get like that growth in the fall when the days are long enough and the so where the temperatures are okay and you have enough hours of daylight where you'll get some growth in, and then they'll just sit there for a long time without a lot of growth. So you want to get that growth in and then you can like harvest on it. There's some spinach, very cold hardy. There's some like frozen pipes. That happens a lot in the winter. Here's some more winter crops. Here's a lot of what we're doing right now. Actually, we're harvesting tulips right now. So these are tulip bulbs getting planted in the fall, but we just are in like, you have to harvest tulips every day. So it's kind of intense. This is actually a current photo that I just stuck in here. I just want to talk about some of I don't know, I feel like farming is, while we've been doing it quite a while, it's a continual process of learning. It's, you know, like kind of the turnaround is slow on the learning. So like I might try something this year. I know I didn't do it perfectly. So I'm gonna try it again next year. And maybe I screw it up in another way. So then I'm gonna try it the third year. I always feel like I gotta try everything 3 times before I, you know, toss it out, and maybe more than that. But it's kind of a slow learning curve. Maybe that's just me, but so we're constantly trying new things. Like this was something that we built last year. It's a germination chamber. We had this on the left, you can see, and there's like a 2-door like commercial refrigerator. It's been sitting in our yard for like 5 years. It doesn't work. Probably someone gave it to us after it didn't work. We have a lot of junk in our yard, but so we just converted it. There's a little, what I want to say, not regulator, something on there that that helps monitor the humidity and the temperature, so we can get it exactly the temperature we want and the humidity we want. And so these are all peppers that are seeded pepper trays that are stacked in there. Peppers like it very warm to germinate. Our greenhouse doesn't stay that consistent, so this just lets them all be at exactly the temperature and humidity they like. As soon as like the first seeds pop up, we'll pull the trays out. So that was a fun, like very cheap farm hack that we implemented. This is called a paper pot transplanter. It's kind of money investments. You have to buy the tool, and then you have to buy the trays, and you have to buy these little like honeycomb looking paper trays. And so you pull out the honeycomb, fill it with dirt, and plant the seeds. And then this tool, what you can see she's doing is like pulling, it basically is like transplanting without bending over and putting each one in the ground. It just kind of unravels itself as it goes. So that was another like new last year tool that we've been using. And there's just a lot of trial and error, like what crops work well in it, what spacing do you want them at. But it's been pretty fun to use. Let's see, I had some notes. This year we're working on using a new cultivator. We pretty much do all of the weeding by hand, and on 15 acres, that's a lot. So we have I don't want to get into it too much because we haven't really perfected it yet, but maybe Isaac and I are going to do a field day later in the year. And if we feel like we've gotten good at using it, we'll show it to people that are interested. So I guess some things I didn't really talk about. Let me see what time it is. Okay, it's just like we have a pretty large crew for managing our 15 acres. It's about 12 people in the summer and about 6 people in the winter. So I feel like a lot of what we do is try to make enough money to pay everybody. And that's a lot of pressure. I think it's a lot of pressure, even if you're doing it all by yourself. Like, I guess farming is inherently risky, and, you know, you have to really figure out what you're doing to make money to make it all work. And I feel like that's a lot of why we should all be, you know, sharing information and helping each other out, because it's just not the easiest profession to be in. I really love it, but yeah, that's all I got.
All right, that was fun.
Sorry, I'm a really
Thank you very much. I think there are a lot of questions coming in, and people are really waiting patiently to ask a lot of questions. So we'll let Juan go ahead and make his presentation, and then we can take the questions and discussions afterwards. All right, thank you very much for your presentations.
Hi, everyone. My name is Juan Aguiar, and let me pull up. I've got a few pictures that I put together. But I guess, so me and my wife, Keaton, we own and run Blooming Reed Farm, which we started, I think we started at the end of 2019, but last year was our first year like fully growing just on our property. And a little background on us. I guess we're the prime example of what not to do when you start a farm. My father is actually another farmer here in Paulden, and he owns Aguiar Farms. And so I had actually helped him start that farm, decided I didn't want anything to do with farm life. And then I moved away to Oregon for 4 years, met my wife, and then we had the opportunity to come back. And whenever we would visit my dad's farm, we liked the idea of farming. It seemed fun to us. So we thought, you know, and along with my dad encouraging us, we thought, you know, we could probably do this. So we acquired some land from my dad, and it was just an empty 5 acres. We had a well, but that was it. And so at the same time, we were trying to build a house. So the first year we actually just worked with my dad and tried to get some sort of experience on a farm. So at the same time, we started building our house, finished it, and then immediately jumped right into trying to grow stuff. So I think 2019, we probably did not do good at all. I mean, we grew a few things. We started to sell at Prescott Farmers Market. We sold a little bit, and it just seemed like a lot of stuff was failing. And a lot of it was, like I said, we came into it, we had no idea what to do. And so a lot of it was just copying what my dad had been doing. And I started to realize that that wasn't the method that I wanted to use. And then I heard about no-till farming, and I figured I was still at a point in the farm where I could change things around and sort of, because I didn't really have a plan. So we decided to lean into that a little bit more, and we like the idea of having more semi-permanent beds where, you know, because we didn't have the equipment to be able to just till beds or to plow or anything like that. So I did borrow my dad's tractor to start our little plots. If you can see this picture on the right over here, one of my friends took a really cool drone picture. But after we got the initial work with my dad's tractor, it was just me and this broad fork for very long, tiring hours. the whole reason we wanted to lean towards a no-till method is there seems to be more of a focus on your soil health and in keeping the diversity in the soil sort of intact as much as you can. And by tilling less, you're not destroying that, and it doesn't have to build up every time. So we just try to add compost. When we first started, we added manure without, composting it. And so we found we got a lot of weeds the first year, which was something we were trying to avoid. But now we know better, and and so we use compost now. And so we're trying to keep weeds down a little. We have about three or 4 acres in production. A lot of it is just kind of, like I said, we're starting out. So a lot of it is just, we're trying different things just to see what grows well here, what sells well. We grow all winter, pretty much year round. Luckily, we had people like Shanti and my dad to kind of look up to and ask questions about. And so we were able to jump into the winter farming right away. And we were able to purchase row cover. And so, and I forgot to mention in the back, this slide, we have a greenhouse as well. So we experimented with growing over winter in the greenhouse and had some success. And now this past winter, we expanded to the outside field, and we've been using row cover, and so we've been able to grow a lot more in the winter time, which is great because I've been able to go. I had another job last year before the pandemic hit, and I was kind of forced to leave that job and focus on the farm, and I wasn't quite ready to hit the ground running and be a full-time farmer. But we didn't have any other choice. And so last year was very scary at first. We didn't know if we were going to sell anything or if people were gonna buy. But then we found that there was just a huge amount of interest in buying local. And so people were wanting to buy product from us. So we hit the ground running. We just started throwing in seed, and we just grew whatever we could grow. We didn't have a plan. We didn't have any sort of I guess, goal in mind. We were just keeping up and trying to make it through our first year. And thankfully we did. But this year we're trying to focus a little bit more. And one of our big reasons for wanting to start a farm was my wife. And we, again, looking up to Shanti and just seeing the amazing flowers that she could grow out here in what we thought was the desert, it kind of inspired us to try it out. And so the first year when we were working with my dad, we grew a lot of sunflowers, and people were just buying them. So that's one of our big staples is sunflowers and things like zinnias and daisies and stuff. We're trying to focus on a little bit more on perennial flowers, just so that because of our more permanent bed sitting there, and maybe not have to deal with planting new flower seed each year. And so that's just one thought that we had for maybe this year. But again, each year, like Shanti said, we kind of experiment, like Joseph said too, we try to experiment with different things just to have fun, to see what works. One of our goals is to have flowers year round. We were pretty close to that this past year. We had some what are they called? We had some calendulas that kind of survived in our greenhouse all winter. And so we were selling like some little calendula flowers, and now we have some anemones and daffodils and tulips coming up too. And here heading into the summer, pretty soon we should have some daisies and some sunflowers coming in and stuff. So we're really excited for that. We live for the flower season. And like I said, our main source of selling is to farmers markets. We started at Prescott, and last year we joined the Flagstaff Farmers Market as well. So those are our two current markets. Last year, again, with just the rising interest in locally grown product, we were approached by a couple of co-ops and restaurants and CSAs. So we have sold to larger operations, but the few times that we've done that, we find we run out of our product for the markets. Like last year, one of the first sales we made to a co-op, they wanted like 400 pounds. That was all the yellow onions we grew for the whole year. And so we sold out of our onions immediately after harvesting them. So this year we're putting in a little extra. Hopefully we can have enough for market and outside sources too. But as far as expanding, because it's just me and my wife, and occasionally we get some volunteers and some family help too. We don't really want to get too big too soon. We just want to stick to our markets and maybe eventually start our own CSA. But yeah, that's our goal is we're just trying to figure out some sort of reliable plan for the year. And like I said, we're still learning a lot. As Shanti was talking about the germination chamber on the peppers, we also started a little germination chamber this year, and I couldn't get my peppers to sprout. So I took note on the higher temperature. So yeah, we're learning as we go, and that's one of our biggest, or I guess one of my things that I really like to tell people is get all the help you can. Ask everybody about everything. You can never have too much knowledge, and the other thing is just be prepared to fail a lot. And as much as you want to do good, you're going to fail. That it's just plants are just tricky. Like last year, there was a few things that we grew so well, and this year we went to start the seed, and it just didn't come up. And so, we've replanted things 2 or 3 times this year, and I'm just banging my head against the wall, wondering why it's different this year than last year. And so, yeah, that's one of the biggest things is just, it's never going to be perfect. You're going to fail. But as long as you're passionate about it, you keep trying and you put in the hard work. I think from what we've found, it's doable. And like Shanti said, with having lots of people and then having to pay all those people, the same problem on the other end is, we don't have the money to pay people, but we could use people. It's just, there's always that like fight in between. That is like, can I afford to pay somebody else, or, can I tough it out? But if you love the lifestyle and you're eating what you're growing, you're at home, I just have to walk out to my backyard for work, which is awesome. And I mean, I get to spend all the time with my wife, and we're having we have a baby on the way too. And so it's great to know too that, we'll both be around, and so those things really make it worth it. It's a lot of work, but it's worth it to me, I think.
All right, thank you so much. This is exciting, right? Sorry for you all, my internet was really bad today that I've been cutting off and on. So now we open the chance for the questions. Maybe we should go through the chat first, and then we can respond to some of the things that are coming in. Yeah. If you have any question to just in a minute, you can unmute yourself and then you ask your question. So the first question that came in was, Joseph, have you ever taken any of the MA classes taught by JM? Actually, just before you come, JM is going to be with us in July, and he's going to be our guest for a whole hour. So if you don't know him, he's the one that founded the Market Gardener. So be on guard for that presentation. All right, Joseph.
No, I haven't taken any classes for anything. My all like spreadsheeting and all that stuff is purely a carryover from managing another business, very not farm related. So it's just no classes, not yet.
Okay.
Would love to.
All right, thank you. There was another one for you to any phytotoxicity from the tomato root to the beet.
I tried to answer that one. I haven't gotten any of that. The only problems I've found is that beets just grow far too tall. The Detroits and Bull's Heart, stuff like that, they stay shorter, but I like the Kiochas, but they like to get up around 18 inches tall, and that just leaves my soil and stems of the tomatoes just so shaded that the pests tend to get in there and strip the bark off my tomatoes, leaving them starving, just bare sticks underneath the tomatoes.
Okay, thank you. Shanti, this one goes to you. Someone asked where you purchased your amendment for soil. That makes sense and why?
Yeah, I already answered that in the chat. I think I answered all the questions directed
Okay.
to me, just to make it easier. So, I mean, mainly the answer is we use manure, which we can get for free around here. Sometimes we have to haul it. Sometimes people bring it to us, and then like farm-made compost with like our own animal manures and like field residue, you know, like plant waste. And then we do buy in a little fertilizer, and like the person asking the question was saying it's really expensive to ship it in. So try to find somewhere within the state where you can get it, even if you have to drive to Phoenix or Yuma or something to get a load, you know, that if you need some like granular type fertilizer, organic fertilizer, yeah, shipping it's not very cost effective.
Okay. All right, this one goes to, thank you very much. This one goes to all of you. And the question for all says that, where is the sales coming most? The farmers markets, the CSA, wholesale channels, etc. Before you respond to that, I did a need assessment when I came into this position. And that need assessment, I posted the link there. It captures most of that, all the market that most of the farmers sell to and the percentages that represent them. So if the three of you, I know Shanti responded quite somehow. So if the three of you can also give your response where most of your sales go in this question, that would be helpful.
You were asking, was that for me?
Yeah, so where does most of your sales go? Market, the farmers market, CSA, and then the wholesale channels?
No, we're 100% farmers market right now, but our annual goal is only 30,000. So farmers market's very capable of handling that.
Okay. Juan?
Yeah, we're mostly market or farmers markets. Like I said, we tried a few other outlets, but we find it with just the two of us, it takes up too much time in the week. So we're trying to just stick with the two markets for this year.
Okay, thank you very much.
Do you want me to repeat mine if I already sent it?
Yeah, you already responded, so we don't have to repeat that. Yeah. Yeah, I think most of the other questions have been responded to as well. So at this time, we should open the way. If you have any question and you can unmute yourself, you can ask the questions direct, and then we'll make it more lively instead of just reading stuff to you. Yeah? So the floor is open to everyone now. Please unmute yourself and ask any question that you want to ask. And people are saying congratulations to you, Juan, for your upcoming baby.
Thank you.
There's a question for soil analysis in there.
Oh, sorry.
Acreage. All right. So there is a question about acreage of Shaffer Farms. Yeah, we're right now all of 1/10 of an acre. In the summertime, we boom all the way up to almost a half acre. It's pretty wild.
That's wild, yeah.
It's a micro farm.
I'm really impressed with your record keeping for being, you know, the size that you are, because we don't, like, I have a really hard time somehow like attaining all the harvest records. So we're pretty good at sales records. So I will say that I forgot to mention that when I was talking, but you know, like we use like a point of sale system, so that helps us track like exactly what we're selling. We didn't used to do that. We just like, you know, got it in our head, took the money, you know, it was like a free for all, and who knows what happened at the end of the year. So it's been really helpful to have a point of sale system really for like hard data to utilize. So we have like every product that we sell is like a button on the screen. We use Square. And then for like all of our wholesale stuff, we use QuickBooks, and then I can merge all that information, but it doesn't really tell me like what I harvested. It tells me what I sold. And that, and with like when things go to the CSA, I don't really have a system for like merging all that, because it's just like, fill the boxes. I'm in a hurry, I gotta go. So I'm really impressed that you have as much data as you do.
Well, I literally have 3 scales, one in the cold frame, one in the refrigerator, and one at the wash desk, and so nothing goes without being weighed. So I know.
Wow.
But that's diligence. I mean, I have scales too, but I just like, you know, it just goes.
Yeah, you guys, your creativity is very high, and I really admire that. I think Blooming Reed also mentioned the acreage. It was 5 acres you mentioned, right? And now you're working on 3, right? Someone asked a question about your acreage as well.
Yeah, so we have 10 acres available to us, but we are only farming about 3 or 4, I think, at most. But yeah, we hopefully want to expand a little bit more down the line, but for now, I think we're at a comfortable amount for a while.
Yeah, okay. All right, so there was another question on intercropping. So Shaffer, you're doing a lot of intercropping, right? You want to talk a little bit about the intercropping for us? Or there's a question on that?
Well, that's the thing, is it is pretty experimental for me, so I'm not going to pretend to teach anybody how to do it. And yeah, I read all the wonderful books back in the 90s about companion planting, but I found that what worked back east and up north, well, they aren't here. So it's back to the ground, back to experimentation, back to lots of record keeping so that I can tell just what's not producing. As far as companion planting, if anybody wants to know more about that, it's going to come down to even the specific type of plant you're growing. Like I mentioned, you might get Detroit dark reds that will top out at 8 inches, and then you get Kyochas which want to go to 18 inches. So they're both beets. Just got to know which one you're doing. And so it's far more complicated than I'm going to pretend that I understand just at this moment. But with a farm that I do not intend will exceed even 1 acre when complete, companion cropping or companion planting is going to be necessary for my operation. So I will be learning.
Okay, awesome. So the intercropping, it's yeah, back in Africa we do a lot of intercropping. So you can do relay, you can do all-time intercropping, planting everything at the same time, but the climate is a little bit different, and you have to have a goal. Why do you want to do that? And the species that will work better. So like Shaffer said, you may have to try out on small plots to see which plants are more compatible with one another. And mostly when you try to put in the nitrogen fixing and in relay with other cereals, that could also help as well. Yeah, so you have to try on a smaller plot to see which crops are more adapted to your location and can be combined well, then you go ahead and do that. There is a long question here that I'm trying to figure out. Sherry, can you please unmute yourself and give us an idea of what you're trying to put across? Sherry from, I think from Cochise County.
You mean my introduction?
Yes, that's right.
Oh, okay. Well, it's kind of long, so I just put it in the chat. But yeah, so basically, somebody asked for introductions, so I was just introducing myself there. Do you want me to say it all?
Okay. In that case, that's fine. Can you send me an email so we can have more time to talk and see if you can be on our panel for next year for the colloquium? That would be awesome.
Okay, and then also in
There's
relation.
a question on the. Go ahead.
Oh, also in relation to planting things with tomatoes, I've always found basil to be really productive for both the tomatoes and the basil.
It does. I just can't sell that much basil.
Yeah, that's probably
Okay.
the thing we do intercrop is basil and tomatoes. Mainly because the basil just grows so fast, we can get an early crop, and it's like wants to be in the greenhouse at the same time, like they like the same temperatures.
Yep.
Someone had a question, and it's okay if I butt in here, about arsenic in the water, which is an issue in Paulden. So we've had our water tested at both of our farm sites, and we're like just below, well, one of them is quite below, one of them is just barely below the EPA drinking water standard. So I'm like, we're cool, but I don't really know about remediation and what kind of an issue that would be. And I'm also not totally clear on, you know, whether you have to have the same concern with growing crops with a higher arsenic in your water as you would for drinking water. And maybe Isaac knows more about that, but.
Yeah, so with arsenic, it's also a heavy metal, and we have threshold. I would advise that that's why the water you use to water your plant, it's recommended that at least you check it once every year to see what your levels are, so you can work with the EPA or the one in charge of the water in your area to be able to handle that. We have food safety personnel that also work on water and those issues. I'll be more than willing to share the contact with you. So please send me an email so I can share the specific and the county in which you are, so I can try to see who is responsible for this to share the information with you, so you can contact them for further assistance, where to do the testing, and then what you should be able to do to handle that, if that helps. Okay.
May I expand on that just a little bit, the arsenic thing? This is Joseph with Shaffer Farms. There was a class, there is a class that's put on about this time every year. Specifically, a part of it is to handle the arsenic thing. Shaffer Farms our water falls far below the limit, and so we're not required to, but they do have a large filtration system for farmers if you are above it, because they don't want arsenic water to be sprinkled onto the leaves or the covered, what they call covered crop section of a plant. And so whether it's a squash or an edible leaf, they don't want the arsenic water sprayed onto it if it's above their standards, minimum standards.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we are running out of our time, like 6 minutes above the time. If there's any other question, let us know. If not, give 1 minute and then we can close for today. Before then, I want to thank Juan, Joseph, and then Shanti for your time. It was really amazing to have you guys speak to us. For us to know what is really going on your farms. We think farming is cool. We didn't know that was so much what you guys are putting to get us this local food. Yeah, so we thank you once again for allowing your time to be with us today. Like I said, JM, the market gardener founder from Canada, will be with us in July as well. So you guys should keep fingers crossed and keep attending. When he's here, you could ask him any question you want. He just agreed to be with us for 1 hour session, free of charge. He didn't charge anything. That will be in July. So just to keep you informed that in July we'll have this person coming to us. Yeah. Also, Listella, please send me an email so I can come visit you on your farm if you are still online. Taylor, please send me an email so I can come visit you on your farm in Camp Verde. All right. All right. I don't think there's any more question. We thank you all for coming and hope to see you next month. Yeah, Joseph.
There was somebody who was asking about soil analysis. Martha Spencer, I never saw that one come up.
Oh, I didn't see that, sorry.
I have a question about soil analysis, but the question wasn't posed, it looks like.
Spencer, are you still available? And can you ask that question for us? If you're still available, Spencer.
Hi, that's me. So really what it was is soil analysis and how to, and I tried to finish up with the next piece about having to grow another crop that actually is going to maybe leach some of the high content of things that I have in the soil so that I can, I don't have to then do different amendments because of the high phosphorus and calcium levels. So that's where I'm at. And my question was, does it work? This is the first year that I'm trying to do that, to actually plant the triticale, I guess is what they call it, to help, change that soil around. It's tough. It's a tough soil to work with.
If I get you right, did I get you right? I think that you have too much phosphorus in your soil and you're trying to do something about it?
Right, too much phosphorus and too much calcium.
Oh, I see. I see.
I think as a farmer, just overwhelm it with organic matter.
That's right, right. I may have to come out and have a look on your field to see what's going on. And then we can talk more about the options that will be available to you. So please send me an email so we can make some time for me to come and visit and then see. Have you done any soil analysis recently? And do you still have the report?
I did. I just had one completed. And I can send it to you. Okay,
so send me an email with the report and then we can talk more about if there is any that I come back by to see, and then we can talk more about what may be possible. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.